Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of Today I Want to Be Career Exploration Interview. I'm really excited about our professional that we will be talking to today. We are actually talking to a English language arts resource teacher. Try saying that 10 times fast, y'all. English language arts resource teacher. And so the crazy thing about Shontell Woods is when she was first telling me about her job, I'm like, okay, Shontell, we're going to just put you as a teacher, on the products. And then she started telling me about her job. I'm like, you know what, Shontell, scratch that. We are going to put your official professional title name because it is just so much that's wrapped up into your responsibility. So I'm like, we can't just put you down as teacher. She looking like, okay. Um, so, but I'm really thankful to have her on the show. I'm also thankful to have my co-host Catherine here on the show as well. And so the great thing about this show is you can actually participate and ask Shontell questions as well. So if you have a young person that's sitting right there with you and want to ask Shontell questions, encourage them to ask those questions. You can go ahead and type those in the comment field. Now, if you're watching from any other page other than Martinique Y Brown or Today I Want to Be, I need you to come on over to one of those two pages. Or if you are watching on YouTube, shout out to our YouTubers. But make sure that you go ahead and share this video now so that more people will know about Shontell as well as just her career, because it's all about career exploration. And that's what Today I Want to Be is all about. A child might be saying, I don't think I want to be a English language arts resource teacher, and that's okay, but at least they know more about it now. So we're going to go ahead and start with you, Shontell. Can you tell the viewers just a little bit more about yourself and how long you have actually been an English language arts resource teacher?
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you again, Martinique, for having me here. Hello again to Catherine. Um, as you stated, I'm Shontell Woods, and I became an English language arts resource teacher back in July of 2021. I'm sorry, 2020. Um, there were some restructuring within the Volusia County school system, and so some um, shifting was done, and so I became an English language arts resource teacher there. Um, so it's first year doing the work. It's very similar work to what I'm familiar with, but this is my first year actually in that position. And I actually did it for 4 months before just moving into another position, but we'll speak about my experience and everything I've done as an ELA resource teacher.
Sounds good. Sounds
Yeah.
good. And what about you, Catherine? Can you tell the viewers just a little bit more about yourself, what grade you're in, and what you want to be when you grow up?
Okay, so right now I'm in 10th grade, and when I grow up, I plan to be a computer engineer.
Okay.
Mhm.
Very nice.
That's great. That's great. Now, one thing that I forgot to tell you guys is now everything that we're talking to Shontell about, you might not even want to ask Shontell any questions, but you might want to follow her on social media. All of her contact information is listed in that description box, so you don't have to Google anything. The great thing about our professionals, they do transition to other careers, maybe in that same field, maybe not in that same field, but at least you get to see that journey that they're going when you do follow them on social media as well. So again, make sure you always go to that description box to find out other information about our professionals as well as Today I Want to Be as well. So Catherine, go ahead with your first question.
So I wanted to know, why did you decide to become a teacher, a language arts professional?
Okay, so I'll speak to becoming a teacher first because it kind of goes into being a language arts professional. So I think since third grade, and I always talk about this story, but since third grade and having the interaction I had with my third grade teacher, Ms. Stephanie Holloway, um, she's the one that sparked the interest of becoming a teacher and educator. Um, one thing that I'm very passionate about is building relationships. And what she did every single day of that third grade year was continue to build relationships, of course, with me and other students that she had in the class. But it resonated with me so much so that I wanted to be like Miss Holloway. I also come from a family of educators. In language arts is just in reading is a passion of mine. So I've always had a passion for reading, grammar, all of those kinds of things associated with language arts. And so I just kind of took to that. And as I evolved within my career as a teacher, I started off as a first grade teacher, second grade, fifth grade, and then became a literacy coach. So I was able to dig a little deeper into the content of language arts and the standards associated with language arts, in some foundational pieces that needed to be learned and become an expert on, so that foundational skills that a student needs in order to be a successful reader, writer, and successful within their education career. So I've always had an interest in English language arts. And so I eventually became, like I said, a school-based literacy coach on the elementary level for 2 years, that was in Atlanta, moved back to Florida, and then became a literacy coach on the middle school level. So I was able to take some knowledge from elementary and apply it to middle school, because you'll find that, students have gaps in middle school. And you're like, how did you make it? Or, matriculate through your elementary years. Martin, yeah. I think you know what I'm speaking to,
Like, how'd you make it to this grade?
Yes, and it was good for me, because although I didn't have experience teaching middle school, I had the experience of being my elementary years as a teacher and literacy coach. So I was able to identify, okay, they're missing this foundational skill and they're in seventh grade. This is why they're struggling. So it was easy. That was easy for me, even though middle school was new to me. Does that make sense, Catherine? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it makes sense. But,
okay.
I was just thinking about something. So you had a teacher who inspired you to become a language arts teacher.
Yes.
So I'm guessing they connected with you a lot. Like they would speak out to their students. They try to help individual students.
Absolutely. So anything that a student struggled with, I definitely remember vividly Ms. Holloway being the type of teacher that was trying to get to the root of why you didn't understand something, as opposed to, that's not right, let's fix this. Well, tell me what your thinking is. Tell me why you thought this way. And on the opposite end of those students who did considerably well, she would challenge that thinking too. So you have to be able to do both, as a teacher. You have to challenge some thinking, and you have to be there to provide support to some students that need that additional support, and know how to balance the two.
And that's the teacher that you're trying to be.
Absolutely. Every single day, even as a resource teacher, and then now as a professional learning specialist, you always want to just be that branch of support and extend the knowledge to others to help them.
I'm glad there's teachers like you, because I've had good teachers like that, the ones you described. I've also had teachers where they don't care whether a student is not smart, they won't help them, or if they're very smart, they feel like they don't need any more help. So I'm glad there's more teachers who are trying to help out both ends of the spectrum and trying to help all those students.
Well, thank you, Catherine, for those kind words. I appreciate that.
And I really feel that, that's like one of my missions of this company today. I want to help young people, kids and youth, really figure out like what they're passionate about, because those are, when you do start working in that career field, like Catherine said, you'll just be so much more caring and passionate in what you truly enjoy doing.
Right.
Go ahead. What was you about
I was just going to say that's so true, because like Catherine spoke to, she said you're in 10th grade, right? So she's in 10th grade, and she said she's had experiences of teachers that just don't care and teachers that do care. And I mean, you hear it all the time. I'm not a teacher to be, a millionaire, I mean, everyone knows it's common knowledge. Teachers don't quite make as much as other careers, but they instill so much into everyone, no matter what their career is going to be. So you can be, It can be anything. You can be a doctor, you can be a sanitation worker. You know, it doesn't matter. You still have to go through some type of schooling. And so um, it's unfortunate when a student does not have that connection or has not had that teacher that can be that person. Because I know someone very close to me who's well into their almost mid 20s, and they're still struggling to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. Do you understand what I'm saying? And not saying that it's the responsibility of the teacher, but the teacher does make up a piece of that pie that helps to, you know, form that thinking of what they want to be when they grow up, and what that looks like. What do I have to do? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. That's
I
good.
understand
Yeah.
teachers have the power to inspire and to
Right.
instill in the hearts of students like many different ideas and like help guide them. So
Right.
I think
Right.
it's very important that there's more teachers who will focus on helping all their students
Mm-hmm.
and trying their best and trying to instill something great in them.
Absolutely. I
And
agree.
also just try to build on themselves as well, because some people don't think they need to change, whereas
Right.
it's always a constantly developing thing. So
You're
in this
so
life,
right. You are so right.
That's good. So, Chantel, you know, Catherine did mention the whole inspiring piece of it. How do you stay inspired though? Because if you're not inspired, then it will reflect in your teaching of these students and
Mm-hmm.
teachers as well.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of my inspiration to continuously stay inspired, honestly, it goes back to the building relationships. It doesn't matter what you want your profession to be, or you know what anyone's career choice, career path may be. You have to build your relationships with anyone that you interact with. Because when you build a relationship, you begin to see different interests in different people, which is why I was telling you earlier, let me listen to this, because, you know, although I'm an adult, I may gain some knowledge about this profession that Martinique will be talking to someone about, you know, and you want to get to know someone else. And once you get to know them, interests begin to spill out. And so those interests, I try to find a way to tap into so that those relationships are maintained. And then the inspiration just kind of grows from knowing that person.
Hmm.
This that makes sense.
Hmm.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
let's
teachers can help build on things. They can
absolutely.
definitely.
help build on interest. They can see an interest in a student and help it grow.
Mm-hmm.
They can
Hmm.
even like cause the interest to be there. Like some of my
Right.
teachers. Like there's
Right.
like one of the reasons I wanted to be an engineer was because I had a really great teacher who was an engineer. And they
Mm-hmm.
were really like always trying to help me, and they were always
Mm-hmm.
trying like when I had a question, they would like answer my question. They would give me great resources. They'd
Mm-hmm.
have engaging assignments where it'd make me actually,
Yes.
think about what I want to do. Because sometimes
Mm-hmm.
teachers give out assignments and I'll complete them, but it only seems to be for a grade.
Yeah.
Right.
Whereas
No,
sometimes they'll
you
give
are. She's
assignments that will
so right.
actually
Uh-huh.
interest
That's
you.
yeah.
You're so right, and you have to figure out what piques a student's interest. Yes, as a teacher, we have standards we have to teach. Yes, as a teacher, there's a curriculum map you have to follow, but you have to know your audience, and you
Mhm.
have to know what piques their interest. Everyone doesn't learn the same way. You know, I'm a very visual learner. I have students who are auditory learners. That's hard for me, but I have to tap into that. And once you tap into that, that inspiration comes. You continue to research about it to make those connections during your instruction.
Definitely. So I have a question for you, Chantel. Can we
Okay.
just break down your job title? So we had the English language arts piece of it. What does that entail? What does that mean?
So English language arts encompasses your different reading standards, writing standards, so literature, informational writing standards, piece. Of course, there's some grammar standards in there as well.
Okay.
So you know, the term comprehension may be familiar to you. Um, um, Literature, text, informational text, grammar, writing, those types of things.
Okay. So now where does the resource part come in?
So as a resource teacher, what I would do is it's on the elementary level. So what I would do is I have a group of schools that I would support in the area, in the content area of language arts. So that support could look like going into plan with the teacher on a specific lesson within the language or within the curriculum, the ELA curriculum. That could be going in during a planning session with the team doing something called a PLC or professional learning community, where you sit with a grade level of teachers, or if they're departmentalized and they just teach ELA, you would sit with those teachers and plan through lessons. You would look at data regarding ELA. So they may have taken an assessment. And during the PLC time, we would look at the data and kind of break down the data. Where did students do well? Where did students not do so well? Okay, Ms. Brown, you taught it this way. I taught it this way, but your students scored better. Tell me what you did. Maybe that's something I can apply in my classroom instruction, you know, those types of things. So the resource part of it is the support, basically, that's provided to the teachers. I may even go in and do a model lesson as well, so that the teacher can see me instructing in this specific content area of ELA with a specific standard.
Okay.
So I'm more like support.
So you are teaching, you are helping and supporting teachers. Are you still teaching English language arts to kids?
So if I go in, so I don't have a roster. So I don't have
that means like a classroom.
Students. A classroom, yes. Okay. So I don't have a roster. So the schools that I support, I can go in and do model lessons. So it's kind of good because I'm supporting schools and teachers that then help support their students in their classroom. Mm-hmm. So we can team teach together. We can plan out a lesson and team teach it together. Or I can model the lesson. The teacher can observe me and take some anecdotal notes so that they can say, okay, I'm struggling with questioning, but I noticed Ms. Woods said and did this during her instruction. Let me write this down. And then after that model lesson, we then have a conversation about what I did. What did you notice? What did you wonder about what I did? What hiccups or what concerns do you still have with regards to this instruction? So I'm literally like support for that teacher.
And that's what made me so excited about you with just learning more about your career, because I had never, I did not know that is something an individual could do. I just did not know that. I'm always thinking that things is taught in the classroom, meaning I'm a college student, I want to be a teacher, and then everything that I need to learn needs to be either learned in college, or if I decide to get my master's, it's going to be learned in those classes. I did not know that there are support teachers that actually go out. And see, that's what I'm saying. Like, we don't even know this stuff. Yeah, and I'm 38, Shontell.
And they could be called different things in different counties, you know. And so, but as part of my undergrad degree and my master's degree, I had to be certified within a certain area. So I'm certified in ELA. I'm certified in ELA. First of all, I'm sorry, let me back up. I'm certified K-6 elementary ed. That is my bachelor's degree. My master's degree is in reading, and I also have a reading endorsement, which means I'm endorsed for reading instruction in kindergarten through 12th grade. And then I can, because of my coursework in undergrad, I can teach social studies up through 8th grade. So I have to have all of these certs. I have to have all of these certs in order to provide the support in this position that I'm in. And I have a specialist in instructional leadership. So that's very different from ed leadership. Ed leadership, just think of it as principal, assistant principal, you know, school superintendent, those kinds of things. Instructional leadership is more so on the curriculum side of things. So it's kind of helpful to have that in my days of being as a literacy coach, because that's literally what it is. I'm providing some leadership and support to teachers in a specific content area. So does all that make sense? now.
It makes sense. I'm
Okay.
telling you, Shontell, like
Okay.
people would never know this stuff.
Right.
Like who?
Yeah.
When do we have time to ask
Right.
a teacher, like, what exactly do you do?
No, you're
You know,
right. So yeah, you may
I think
hear a
it's
resource
amazing.
teacher like I have a but I don't have a roster. Like I said, in that position, I just had I had 4 specific schools that I worked with. And each week we would go out and provide support. And like I said, model lessons, planning, providing professional development to the teachers, those kinds
Mhm.
of things.
Okay, go ahead with your next question, Catherine, because I can take over this
I wanted to
entire.
comment on something. It's just like I didn't know teachers would also like, well, while they're teaching, they would still get taught stuff and they'd still like
Oh yes. Oh
learn new
yes.
things. And I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
that for like when planning our lessons, like I don't really know teachers plan the lessons. I always assumed that they would just do stuff by themselves. They just look up
Well,
ideas.
well, you have some teachers that may still do that, but a good practice is you have to plan. You may see your teacher with their teacher edition book in their hand and reading things. You still have to do as a teacher. I try to stress when I'm supporting, you have to do the work of the lesson that you're teaching in order to know where some misconceptions are going to come up with students, where they're thinking, where might their thinking get fuzzy when they're teaching. So yes, teachers, even myself now in my new role as a professional learning specialist, I still have to go to certain professional development myself in order to stay abreast and stay aware of new trends and everything that are going on in education. So listen, Catherine, it doesn't stop. When you become an engineer, you're going to keep learning. You're going to keep going to different, symposiums or different, professional development opportunities, nationwide, and you're still going to be learning. So it doesn't stop.
Mhm. So,
But
Shante, go ahead, Catherine. What you about to say?
yeah, I just want to know that what's your favorite thing about your job? So it's like when you're working with other teachers
Mm-hmm.
or they your help planning lessons, like what's your
Mm-hmm.
favorite, like the most, like the thing you look forward to the most when you're participating in your job?
So I think I often try to tell teachers when, or I should say, a lot of teachers say, I can be instructing on a particular standard and students have the right idea, but not the full idea of it. So they're kind of struggling through their thinking. And I like to call that a productive struggle. Because as long as they're on the right path in their thinking, and you may have to engage with some questioning to that student to provoke them to think a little deeper, they'll eventually come to surface and it'll come out. They'll communicate exactly what you're looking for them to communicate. So I love the light bulb moments. Have you ever heard of that term? Like when the light bulb goes on, like you can, like as teachers, you can literally see, those cartoons where the light bulb is over. Like you literally, when you're having those courageous conversations with your students and letting them struggle through something and not struggle in a negative way. Like I said, they can be on the right path. You just have to direct their thinking. So what types of questions are you asking them to get them to dig deeper? And when you see those light bulbs go off and they got it, that is what I look forward to the most. So that's with teachers and with students. So I love that.
That's good. So now finish this sentence,
Okay.
Chantel. If your child enjoys blank, they may enjoy the education field. And when I say blank, it doesn't have to be one word. It can be like multiple words if you want.
Um, I think this might be a good. If your child enjoys interactions with people and experiences, then your child will love education. Was that the ending? Your child will love education.
Yeah, they'll enjoy looking at the education field. So now
Oh,
I
they'll
have a
enjoy the yes.
education field. So I do have a follow-up question to
Sure.
that. So now some parents might not even know where to start when it comes to introducing their child to your field.
Okay.
What would you tell a parent to start doing in order to help their child or student explore the education field as a
Okay.
career?
I would definitely say encourage the parent to then encourage their child to do some volunteer work. I know here in Volusia County, the high schools have different things called academies, And so within the academy, the student can enroll into the academy, and basically it's giving them exposure to a career path that they choose. So if it's childhood or education, they have childhood and education academies where the student can then go in and volunteer, be it at elementary schools or at daycares, high schools, whatever level they're interested in. So volunteering, number one. Number two, I would look at different educational programs at different colleges and universities to see what they offer, because some may only offer, elementary education, but the student may want to be a high school ELA teacher and they don't have that certification. So of course I'm going to plug my number one institution, Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University in Tallahassee, Florida. They have a wonderful college of education. So volunteering, looking up different schools and programs, definitely to see what they offer. Um, Even if it's something like music education, I want to be a music teacher. You have to see if that those universities and colleges offer that program, and look up the coursework, that the course load that's within that program as well.
So if it's a young child, let's
Mm-hmm.
say elementary school, I know that you were saying that if your child enjoys like interacting with people and things like
Mm-hmm.
that, then the parent can start seeing that type of stuff at a younger age.
I think so. So for me, I grew up, I have four siblings. So the first three of us are all 2 years apart. So before my youngest sister came on or was thought of, and if she's watching, I do apologize. But before, the three of us would, I remember, you had it was three girls, the first thing. So we would have our dolls and everything. And as a little kid, lining them up, and we always played school, and I always was the teacher. Like I never was.
Okay. So cute.
We always played school, so little stuff like that, and you'll pick up on it. I think you can pick up on it. So I have a 4-year-old, and I have my best friend has a now 5-year-old. They're 4 weeks apart. Jackson turns 5 next week, but Madison is now 5 now. And she's been heavily involved with STEM. She's so into it, the science of everything. Whereas her sister, who's right behind her, is turning 4. She's heavily intrigued in the arts. And so even, I just went to visit them the other day, and they're showing me different things they're doing. And the younger one is showing me how she, can spin around like a ballerina, like she's heavily into the arts, whereas the older one is heavily into STEM and science and mixing things together. Why does this look that way? And the same with my son. He's into this thing with dinosaurs, and he knows what a fossil is, and he knows what it means to be a herbivore and a carnivore. So parents will see it even in their young babies, what piques their interest, and let them go and explore. I tell parents all the time, like, don't force anything on the kids, because sometimes they change their mind 3 and 4 times. And let them change their mind 3 or 4 times, because they have to figure out what they like. Now, what their parents want them like, my baby's gonna be a football player. Okay, your baby might not want to run down up and down the field with the football.
Yeah.
They may want to, I don't know, be in culinary school, and cook. So let them go off and explore. But parents can see at a young age.
Yeah, and I really hope that parents, if you're tuning in, don't be intimidated what you don't know about.
Mhm.
I always push for the library, because the library
Yes.
is a free resource. And if you seeing,
Yes.
noticing these different things, and you have no idea, like, why do they like such and such so much? Talk to
Mm-hmm.
your librarian and just
Yep.
ask them, like, what books for this age range would be good for somebody, a child that looks like they're interested
Mm-hmm.
in blase and blah,
Mm-hmm.
because we have to really start catering to what our child's interests are, because God gave us different things to that
Right.
he created us uniquely.
Mm-hmm.
And so like Shontell was saying, don't force something on them if that's
Mm-hmm.
not how God created them, and they will be so much happier in their
Mm-hmm.
career field when they are
Mm-hmm.
doing things that they was created for. But you
Mm-hmm.
could go ahead with your next question, Catherine.
Okay. So I want to know, like, when you were a teacher, like, what was your favorite lesson you've ever taught?
That's heavy, Catherine.
Oh no, I know. Oh, I know. No, no, no. And if anyone's listening and they think they know, I want you to. Well, I can't see if you'll know, but text me to see if you guessed the same or said the same thing. My absolute favorite thing to teach or person to teach is Ruby Bridges. I love so during Black History Month when I was a first grade teacher,
Mm-hmm.
and I was a first grade self-contained teacher. I'm gonna tell you what that is very quickly. A
Okay.
self-contained class is a class where it's a very small number of students. So I had 14 at the most, but these students may have been underperforming academically. They may have had what we call an IEP for academics or behavior. So they could have had behavior. It's and that was my first 3 years teaching. I had self-contained. So talk about new teacher. You think you learn everything. I had no idea what self-contained was until I got into it. So it taught me to open up my toolbox of tricks, so to speak, very quickly. But every Black History Month would come around, of course, and we would teach the historical figures we see in the books, but I would always start with Ruby Bridges because Ruby Bridges was a first grade student when she went to a public white school, and she was a person of color. And so I love to teach about her being brave at such a young age, and my first graders could connect to that because I would let them know, she was 6 years old. You're 6 years old. Can you imagine walking down the street and you have 4 police officers with you? You're walking hand in hand with your mom, but people are still saying mean things to you. They're throwing things at you, but she was resilient. She didn't let those distractions get to her. They didn't, she had to take a test just to even get admitted into the school that she went to, because they were, segregation was a big thing back then. So I love, love, love teaching about her. And then when March comes around for Women's History Month, we go back on the first day and revisit Ruby Bridges again. So they get a
They
double
like, Miss
dose.
Woods, you love some Ruby Bridges,
I
don't
do.
you?
I mean, it was to the point where Ruby Bridges is still living to this day. So my dad is 65. Ruby Bridges, I think she's 65, early 60s. Like, it's to the point where even to this day, I will email, like, try to contact her. Like, I would love to meet you. Like, I used to try to, have her, get her to come in to, see my first grade students. It hasn't happened yet, but I'm putting it in that. It's gonna happen.
Keep doing it.
I'm
Keep
gonna meet
doing
Ruby
it.
Bridges, but
Yeah.
I love teaching about Ruby Bridges. It's my favorite.
Now I'm going to change gears a little bit, and Catherine, you may still have questions about Shontell being a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So now, Shontell, you're not only a teacher, but you're also an author. Can you
Yes.
just tell our viewers just a little bit more about the book that you wrote and why you actually want to become a published author?
Yes. So my first book is called Emory Takes on Kindergarten, and it's about a little boy who moves from a different state, and he starts kindergarten, middle of the school year starts kindergarten. So not typical first day of school, but he goes and starts school in a new state, in a new city. He's wondering, am I going to be this great kid I was, where I lived before? Am I going to make friends? Is my teacher going to like me? So it's a day in the life of his first day at a new school. And my second book is the same main character, but this book is called Emory Takes Flight. And in this story, he goes and visits 5 different places around the world. Mm-hmm. So he meets different people, he meets some new friends, he experiences some different things within their culture. And I started writing because I had Jackson, of course. And it was an outlet for me as a new mom, dealing with some things, as a new mom and dealing, still being a new wife and everything. And it's about resiliency and just maintaining that person who you are. But I also wanted to highlight a main character of color because my son had books in his library, but I was looking at, there are no characters, not even secondary characters that look like him. And so as an outlet for me, I wrote the first book. And the second book, I wanted to highlight different cultures around the world. So I'm very big on diversity. And so he visits some places that typically you may not hear about. So like Agra, India is a place in India that he goes to visit. And you learn about different customs that they have in India. You know, they sit down on the floor around a table and pillows. Or
Yeah.
another place is Chile. He visits Chile, and that inspiration came from a cousin of mine who's Chilean. And you learn that it's during the summer when he goes on this expedition that he calls it. But in Chile, our summer is their winter. And so he goes skiing. He's never skied before. So he learns different things about different people in that
Yeah.
second book.
That's good. So now shout out to Miss Scorpio Life. She said my cousin is awesome, well-rounded, and well-versed. Go
Oh,
Shontell. Thank
oh,
you so
thank
much
you.
for tuning in. And if you are just now tuning in, you are watching Today I Want to Be, our career exploration interview. We are talking to Shontell Wood. She is an English language arts resource teacher, and we also have our co-host Catherine here as well. If you're interested in posting your questions, you can definitely do so now. We do encourage you to allow your child or your student to watch the show so that they can learn more about the education field and the English language resource teacher responsibility as well. So, Catherine, you can go ahead with your next question.
I wanted to sort of build on the what she said about her book.
Mhm.
Specifically, what she said about the main character of her book. It was
Okay.
supposed to be someone that someone like her son could relate to and understand.
Yes. Yes. So I actually, I mean, I have there's copies everywhere, but I have a copy here. So, like, can I? Do you mind
Oh, go
if
ahead.
I just?
Chantel,
So,
girl, you know I ain't gonna say
copy.
no.
There's a copy of the first one. So this is Emory here, and so like if you look even at his classroom, it's like a rainbow of people.
Yeah.
And I wanted him to see that there are characters in a book that can look like you too. So like here's the second one, Emory Takes Flight. So that's him, again. Um, but there are books where you'll see characters that are going to look like you, and if that means, I mean, they're out there. But I want to get to a point where we as people of color don't have to dig and research where these books are. Like we there are different platforms that I've in this career as an author have connected with that highlight people of color in African American authors, independent authors. So the reason I just want him to know that he can have books where characters look like him too. Like that's important to me.
Hmm. So
Yeah,
do
that was
you?
really important to me because
Good.
when I was younger, I had difficult times trying to find someone who was like me in books.
Yeah.
Like I'd see a lot of
Absolutely.
like I looked through books like because I was like a really really avid reader when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
Got to get
Mm-hmm.
the AR points, but
Right.
yep, and but I would look around the library and I'd see like maybe like one or two, and it was like a mainly African American school too, so it was like astounding how I couldn't find many at all.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
people
So
with like
it's
us.
Yeah.
right. And you as a student, Catherine, you even as a high school student, you advocate for those kinds of things. And if that means, um, they have to venture out and a lot of authors, independent authors that are African American, a lot of their products I know are on Amazon. Um, so if they have to venture out, like encourage, maybe a librarian, hey, there are some novels that I know are out there. Can we get some of these in our library and not just highlight them during, Black History Month? They should be highlighted, and accessible to students year round. It shouldn't just be, the 28 days that we have to um, discover and research, our historical figures that we, learned about.
And I think that that's really good, Chantel, that you have now also like put the responsibility on the students. If there's
Mm-hmm.
something that you see that you want,
Mm-hmm.
you have to go to those individuals and let
Yeah.
them know what you're interested in.
Mm-hmm.
I would never think. I think that so many times I put the responsibility on the adults. Like, well, why wouldn't you have these
Mm-hmm.
type of books in your school. You know, if
Mm-hmm.
your school is majority Black, like
Mm-hmm.
why wouldn't you? But
Yeah.
I don't know if it just doesn't connect or
Well, it's
what.
and some things I know, certain resources students have to have just because, we have curriculum apps, like I spoke about earlier, that we have to follow. But a place like the Media Center should be a place where, I often say, students can dream with their eyes open. So if
Mhm.
that means picking up a book and making a connection with the character in a book just from seeing the front cover on it, and they need a book or want a book, um, or the content of a chapter book that relates to them, then let's form those committees, or let's have a conversation with our school administration, like, um, as a team of teachers or committee of teachers, like, look, we need this type of resource in our media center so that our students can have that outlet. So when it's not a mandatory time to read and they want something for leisure, they have that resource available to them in the media center. So I definitely think that there's nothing wrong with going to those individuals to say, hey, can we think about this, adding this book to our media center.
But since we're talking about that, then I think that it will also encourage
Mm-hmm.
like just the reading aspect of it. Of course, we have to read when we're in high school and middle
Mm-hmm.
school. There's those books that we have to read,
Mm-hmm.
but I would think that somebody would enjoy reading so much more when it was a character that looked like them and
Mm-hmm.
talked like them, and you would want to read about it,
Mm-hmm.
because so many students, some students don't even want to read. They don't enjoy
Right.
reading, but maybe
Right.
they could tap into like, well, I wonder why this
Mm-hmm.
student doesn't enjoy
And
reading.
it's this conversation right here circles back to our conversation we were talking about, interest. Building relationships with students. When teachers are, and I know we're talking about my author journey, but when teachers are planning for instruction, you have to know what interests your students. Yes, again, you do need to use the resources that are there outlined for you. But if you need a particular part of a text that's going to connect to a student who loves to run track, or
Mhm.
even an African American student that loves to play lacrosse, you may not think that just because typically you don't see that, but that may be that student's interest. You may need to dig a little deep and find that resource to pique their interest, because a lot of times you find students don't want to read because they can't relate to the content, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah. So now you did mention that you are I want to call it professional learning specialist, right?
Yes, I moved into that position back the end of November.
Okay, the end of November. So now
Mm-hmm.
you guys, so me and Shontell, we actually met like earlier 2020, and
Mm-hmm.
that's when she was an English language arts resource teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's really cool that you are now a professional learning specialist. And
Mm-hmm.
the reason why I say that is because I always want students to know about different fields that they can move into still
Mm-hmm.
within that same field, because and this I'm not saying this is Shontell's experience, but I know with my experience, I was interested in the retail field. And I was like, okay, I know my goal is to become a buyer, but I had to first start with an entry level job. And I was like, I hate this job. I was like, I cannot, but sometimes you have to start at a job at the lower
Mm-hmm.
level to get to where you want to be. And
Mm-hmm.
so I encourage you, don't quit like
Mm-hmm.
me and be like, you know what, I'm done. I'm quitting all of
Yeah,
this.
it go, and this goes back to what I was saying about, having the experience and the certifications I have,
Mhm.
because I always knew I wanted to be a teacher. One thing that I've been constant about is and this is unless, the Lord leads me in this direction, but
Uh-huh.
I never had an interest in being on the admin side of things. I've always had the other interest of curriculum, and now I'm tapping into adult learning. And
Okay.
I feel like in the different roles I've been in, I'm continuing to evolve in my
Yeah.
career. Um, and one of my good cousins, I'm
Your
not
good
sure,
good
maybe that
cousin.
was one of my good cousins,
Okay.
mentioned something to me a few months ago that you know, just continue to grow in your career, because you know where you are isn't where you're going to be now.
Yeah.
If any of my supervisors listen to me, I am not actively.
Yeah. And
Let me put that out
they
there.
know that. They
But
know that, Shontell.
I know just to answer your question, she told me, like, just, don't ever be comfortable. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because you always want to evolve and grow. And all of these experiences have even helped me, even though I don't have a rostered classroom right now, it still helps me to be a better educator, because I'm introduced in to different aspects of research within my new position now that I know I couldn't have been in if I was still a literacy coach.
So tell us, what do you do as a professional learning specialist?
So I basically research different professional learnings for educators or district leaders, and I work with a team of a team of specialists who are also teachers prior to moving into their specialist role. But I work with a small team, and we get together and research, put together presentations, and then we go out to schools and re-deliver this professional learning to a school staff. We may even present professional learning on a specific topic at a principals meeting. So we're meeting with principals of the schools, K-12, or we may provide professional learning to some district leaders as well. So now I get to work pre-K to 12th grade, not only with students, teachers, literacy coaches, math coaches, science coaches. Now I get to work with principals and other leaders within the district. So it's more of a demand, and it's different with regards to like calendar year. So I work year round, if that makes sense. So while teachers have the summer off, teachers like to come back during the summer and do different professional developments. That's what I would do. So I may be facilitating some of those professional development um, discussions and courses that teachers want to take during the summer while they're off.
So you can go ahead with your next question if you have one, Catherine.
I want to know, when you were a teacher,
Mm-hmm.
what things do you wish students would know when coming into your class?
Just give
When
us one,
coming into
Shontell.
my class, because it just makes me think about. I want students to know Miss Woods is very firm, but I'm also very fair. I'm not the mean teacher. I'm firm and I'm fair. And I want you to know that I truly, your success is everything to me when you enter my class. So I want you to get the knowledge that you need when you're in my class, so that when you leave and matriculate throughout your grade levels, you remember me and that teaching and that relationship that I have. I'm going to build a relationship with you. I'm going to push you when you don't want to be pushed. But ultimately, I do want you to be successful. So I want you to know I'm firm, but I'm fair. And your well-being is what's most important to me.
Yeah. And you are definitely describing one of my teachers that I had in elementary school. She was a black woman. Her name was
Mm-hmm.
Miss McAfee. And it's so crazy
Yep.
how regardless of how much older you get, you
Mm-hmm.
still remember like these couple of teachers, and you just don't
Mm-hmm.
forget their names. I'm looking like, I
No.
can't remember what I did last week, but I can
Mm-mm.
remember a teacher's
No,
name.
Miss Stephanie Holloway out there, and she's still at the same elementary school that I attended. She's still there, so anytime I have the chance, I go back. My first book was dedicated to
That
her.
is so
Like,
good.
we have a very great relationship even to this day. I'm 37 years old. I was in her class. I was 8.
Does she
That's
remember you though? Like, okay, you
oh,
know how some,
absolute.
but
No, ma'am.
listen, Chantel, you know how some older people be like, oh yeah, and then she had a million kids since you. And you
No,
know how
she
they be like,
does.
I remember you
Hmm.
don't remember me.
No, she truly does. She truly
Okay.
does. Because I think when I was in her room, I want to say it was like her second or third year teaching. And she
Okay.
went to FAMU as well. She has a daughter, Stacy, that went to FAMU as well. And also my younger brother. So I was 14 when my younger brother was born. So my brother's 23 now. he had Miss Holloway when he was in school, I think in 5th grade or something. So no, she knows us. We know each other quite well.
Yeah. So now let me ask you this, because from everything that you have told us about what you do, you sound like you're pretty up there, like, you know, with you know, we got your teacher, then you moving up. What does the diversity look like? You know, are there a lot of Black women in what you're doing? Are there a lot of Black men? What does it look like?
So I can only speak for the current county that I'm in. And it's funny that you asked that, because my passion, the passion that I have and what I lead in my department is the diversity piece of it. So it's honestly not big on diversity. I don't have the actual statistics, but I do know there's some underrepresentation with teachers of color, especially when you have some schools that are highly populated with students of color, but they don't see that in their teachers. We are there, don't get me wrong, we are there, but it's different schools have different populations of when you compare students of color to teachers of color, and that's brown and Black alike. Do you understand what I'm saying? So you're Hispanic, any minority group, Hispanic, African American, Asian population, all of that. So there is some underrepresentation, but we're working hard to recruit and retain our teachers of color, because I think it's important for students to see themselves and their teachers, that they see 8 hours of the day that they're there.
Yeah. How did you not allow that to intimidate you as you have constantly moved up in different positions in your field?
I'm the type of person, my work is just going to speak for itself, I've been blessed in the last 2 positions that I've been in, because the last 2 positions that I've been in weren't positions that I was seeking. People sought me for it. And so when the opportunity presented themselves, I knew that as compared to another counterpart that may have been trying to apply for the same position, I knew what I was up against. But I think my work and my relationships, again, that I've built with my leaders that I've worked with, kind of speak for themselves. And so I just go in and just remember what my focus is and my goal is in the role that I'm in. I'm not there to, have to, I basically I'm me at my core. Like, I don't go in and put on this mask of someone and come in and speak this way or look this way. This is who you're going to get. I have very intentional conversations when there's something that I don't agree with or something that I'm at, because I have been asked, you moved from Atlanta, how did you get this job? You've never even taught in such and such county before. How did you even get this job? And I don't have to prove myself to that person. Just like they say, watch me work. So
that's good, Shontell. Yeah. Did you have another question, Catherine?
I wanted to ask, what steps did you take to get to your position? So if I was like a high school student, which I am, like how would I get to your position? Like if I wanted to
as a professional learning specialist. So you would still get your certifications and your degrees in education. So and that can be elementary ed or secondary ed within a specific content area. You also, I know in my county, you have to go, if you want, I think it's good to have the experience of being a teacher than a coach, because it kind of helps you to identify your role as a professional learning specialist, and it helps you to interact with adult learners, because you have to have some kind of experience with adult learners and knowing how adults think versus how students think. And it's just like planning for a student's lesson. You have to plan your activities and that research I was speaking about to fit your audience of an adult. So you still need to have those certifications and degrees within the education realm that'll definitely help you.
Mm-hmm. So now, Shontell, what would you tell your younger self?
What would I tell my younger self about
Just
anything?
just where you're at right now in your life, and talking
Okay.
to our
Mm-hmm.
14, 15, 16-year-old Shontell, what would you tell
Okay.
yourself?
Ooh, 14-year-old Shontell. Ooh, what would I tell? 14-year-old Shontell, I would tell um, to keep pushing, no matter what you're doing, no matter what obstacles come your way, to keep pushing and find that inner voice in you and use that inner voice um, to speak up and speak out on things that you're passionate
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
about.
That's,
I think that's what I would tell my 14-year-old. Keep
um,
pushing.
and is there anything you want to add to that?
Me?
Yeah.
No, I think that's what it would be, just to keep pushing and continue to be resilient no matter what obstacle comes, because life is going to happen. That's the
Mm-hmm.
one thing 14-year-old Chantel did not. Life is going to happen. And sometimes 37-year-old Chantel needs to know life is going to happen. Um, but although life is happening, be it negatively or positively, you continue to push and be resilient in that.
That's good.
Yeah.
So now, Shontell, why did you want to be a part of the Today I Want to Be products?
I think when we interacted last year, I really love your platform and this platform because, like I was saying earlier, of course, like for example, Catherine, you said chemical engineer. Was it chemical engineer?
Computer engineer.
Computer engineer. I'm sorry, computer engineer. Although I know a little bit about computers and I think I know a little bit about engineering, I don't know enough. And so I think being a part of your platform allows for students, especially the students, to kind of think a little deeper about what they want to do. And if it's something that piques their interest, it allows them to get some more knowledge and information about it. And I think the student aspect of it was what I was most excited about, because oftentimes you see, others who have a similar platform or just maybe want to interview you about being an educator, but I never can interact in this interview setting, with the students. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what attracted me to Today I Want to Be, just the aspect of involving students.
That's good. That's good. And I definitely appreciate you for just being a part of the products. If you're interested in purchasing any of the products that Shontell is featured on, you can definitely go to that website that's listed in the description box. We are currently looking for Black men, Black women, and Hispanic women. We're adding Hispanic women to our 2022 products as well. So make sure you go ahead and click that link in that description box. If you're interested in purchasing Shontell's books, make sure you reach out to her. Again, her contact information is listed in that description box. You want to follow Shontell on social media so you can just continue on her professional journey, as well as her journey of being an author as well, and be able to support her in that. I definitely thank you, Catherine, for being a great co-host. Can't wait to have you featured as a computer engineer when you get
Yes.
to that point in your life. And I definitely thank you all as the viewers for taking time out to watching another episode of Today I Want to Be Complete Career Exploration Interview. So now our upcoming interviews on May 13th, we're continuing this education.
Okay.
I know that teachers appreciation. I was researching like when y'all
Mhm.
week is, and it's like May.
Yep. The first week
Um,
in May.
yeah, okay, so it's coming up. So on May 13th, we're actually interviewing a Black woman who is a principal. And then on May
Okay.
19th, we're interviewing an assistant professor in engineering. I
Oh,
know, and
Catherine.
he's a Black male. And so
Okay.
I hope that you guys are able to tune into that and also sign up your kids and your students for that interview as well. We hope that you guys have a great remainder of the night, and we will talk to you all later.